Right now on Upfront.
A year in.
What works, what doesn't work?
MKE Archbishop Jeffrey Grob this Christmas weekend overseeing 500,000 Catholics in a whirlwind first year on the job.
There's white smoke, there's white smoke.
A new pope, the first American, the church and politics, and the new challenges in the new year ahead. This Sunday, our one-on-one with the Archbishop. Then, backlash.
Get off of me! Get off of me!
Wisconsin's data center debate, chaos at public meetings. Now the effort to recall one Wisconsin mayor.
My only regret in the entire process is we weren't able to do this sooner.
Port Washington Mayor Ted Knightsky with us, here to respond. And big weekend at the box office.
This is a love letter to Milwaukee.
Song sung blue with its opening weekend. Now, inside the Milwaukee premiere, the push with taxpayer dollars to make more movies here in Wisconsin, and that one-on-one with Hugh Jackman.
This is Upfront with Jaron Jordan and political director Matt Smith.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. This Christmas weekend soon set to mark 1 year for Milwaukee's new Archbishop Jeffrey Grob. And what a year it's been for the church and politics. This as Pope Leo has just recently accepted the resignation of Cardinal Timothy Dolan, one of Milwaukee's former archbishops, who served in New York since 2009. For Grob, what a year it's been, appointed by Pope Francis, a Wisconsin native who spent time in Chicago, this year witnessing the first American Pope elected, as we sat down with him this past week. 1 year ago in January, the Archdiocese of Milwaukee installed its 12th leader, Archbishop Jeffrey Grob, who now oversees 500,000 Catholics in his home state.
It's time now to look creatively. What's going on? What have we been doing? What works? What doesn't work? To think outside the box.
Has it gone slow? Has it gone fast? Well, how would you analyze that this first year?
I think it's a both and.
Yeah.
In a sense of I'm still waking up every day saying, okay, now where am I going and where exactly is that? How do I get there? And what am I going to do when I get there kind of thing.
Well, what surprised you most in this first year?
The diversity, certainly in part, and having worked in the Archdiocese of Chicago for 33 years, even still in these 10 counties that comprise the southeastern portion of the state of Wisconsin, the diversity of people of needs, and just the search you mentioned, to find faith in their lives.
The church facing numerous challenges, now in the hands of Archbishop Grob, who's responsible for leading Catholics in 10 counties in the southeastern part of the state. As we head into 2026 and the world surrounding us, whether you look at culture or politics or what have you, what do you see as the role of the Catholic Church in the year 2026?
For me, I believe firmly that we have a place at the table. There's no doubt, in a sense, to be integral, to be one of the people that's part of the conversation. The Catholic tradition, survived these 2,000 years, and in the core deposit of truth, capital T, truth doesn't change. How does it speak, though, to each generation, each era? The struggles, the challenges of the world. How are we addressing AI right now? In a sense, key things in the world in which we live, artificial intelligence. How is that affecting people? How does that affect faith? But then immigration issues, all the key hot button issues that people are trying to make their way through to understand, and also to see God in the mix of all of that.
On immigration, have you found it harder at all to talk about immigration, perhaps without parishioners thinking you're talking politics?
I think people want to put a spin on it right away. Anytime the Wisconsin Catholic Conference, for instance, makes a statement on, immigration, policies, issues, ICE, all these different topics, again, people try to put you in a camp. Try to say, okay, you're this side, you're pro, you're con, whatever. My image, just like in dealing with matters of abuse, whatever the case may be, you put the person affected in the center of the room. They're the focus. So no different in immigration issues. The dignity of the human person must always be held up. at no point, has the bishops, the National Bishops Conference or the Wisconsin Catholic Conference, said, well, we just simply negate and set aside, the state or the country's rights, to enact laws and to protect its borders, all of those kinds of things. But that is not done, though, at the risk, the expense of human lives and human dignity. Again, it's that middle course. How do we bring everybody to the table? How do we bring about comprehensive reform?
Is the church relevant today?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And if not, then we've got more work to do, because she definitely has a truth to share. And, in a sense, always the challenge of, keeping it dynamic, keeping it engaged, taking it, taking the church and the person of Jesus Christ into the marketplace. How are we doing that? And since I came in as Archbishop, every group I've met with, every organization I've met with, I've tasked them all with the same question of, okay, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Is it time? I mean, I think evaluative questions, the hows and the whys are healthy in any organization.
In the world of politics and coming into another election year, what do you see as the role of the church when it comes to politics broadly?
Not to get caught in camps. I mean, because that can easily happen. I mean, bishops, priests, deacons, church leaders, even that are not Catholic, other leaders, it's easy to get drawn into one camp or another camp, whatever the case may be. We have to remain true to ourselves, and it's not to a particular party, but it is to our Catholic faith. What does the faith teach us? How do we live our lives to remain centered in that? It's not easy, and there's always that pull. And again, because in so many ways, I believe just, I'm 64. So, seeing the country grow and change, but certainly, and I don't think I'm unique in saying that we've become so polarized to the point that we cannot dialogue. The moment we stop dialoguing, it's over. We have to remain in conversation. We may not always agree or we disagree, whatever, but we have to continue to speak civilly to each other.
Just months into Grob's tenure, history for the church. In May, Robert Prevost was elected the first American pope, now known as Pope Leo, the Chicago native who spent much of his career as a missionary in South America.
The pleasure of meeting him in June when I received the pallium. I mean, just moments that you don't forget. And he's got it was that special gift of when he's with you one-on-one. The basilica was filled with thousands of people on that day when I received the pallium, but in those moments that he and I exchanged words, it was like I was the only one in front of him. And so to be able to be so centered and so focused, but I see that as part of his charism, very much so. There's just a groundedness in him that is truly profound and needed.
What was that conversation like?
Very, very simple. I mean, it was comical because there was the formal exchange. You kneel down in front of him, he places the pallium over your shoulders, you stand up in the traditional greeting of, Pax Vobiscum, peace be with you and also with you. And then he tapped me on the chest and said, so where are you from? It's not what you expect, I mean, in a sense of, in English. And I think I get stunned so many people still, that, I mean, just a wonderful South Side Chicago. So where are you from? And just spoke a few moments.
Yeah, you discussed Chicago. I'm assuming
Yeah,
in some
the
capacity.
White Sox.
Yes,
he's getting a lot of attraction, if you will, out of the White Sox.
I'm sure he is.
All right, coming up, Wisconsin's data center fight, the explosion of new construction just getting started, but now one mayor is facing a potential recall. For Washington Mayor Ted Knightsky with us, responding next.